Okay, so we all want to raise kind, compassionate kids, right? I mean, of course we do. But what if I told you that the way most of us teach empathy could actually be making things worse? I know, it sounds a little crazy, but stick with me, because what we're about to unpack could totally change how you help your child connect with the world around them.
So take a look at this number, 73%. It's a huge majority, right? And on the surface, what it represents is actually something pretty great.
That's right. Nearly 3/4 of us parents feel like, yeah, we're doing it. We're raising empathetic kids. We're trying. We're putting in the effort. And that's awesome. But it leads to a really tough question.
I mean, think about it. If almost everyone is teaching empathy, why are we seeing more bullying, not less? There's a huge disconnect here, right? It's a puzzle that kind of suggests what we think is working. Well, maybe it isn't. And that's the paradox we're going to get to the bottom of today.
That disconnect really points to a crucial idea. It's not that we aren't trying hard enough. The problem is way more subtle. It seems we might have just misunderstood what good empathy really is.
You know the scene, right? Another kid falls down on the playground and your child just kind of keeps playing. Or maybe they see a friend feeling left out and it just doesn't seem to register. It's not because they're a bad kid, not at all. It's often because the kind of empathy they've learned isn't really built for taking action. And this leads us to this really fascinating and honestly kind of uncomfortable idea. The concept that empathy, this thing we all think is a pure virtue, actually has a dark side.
And look, this isn't just some random opinion. This comes from Paul Bloom, a psychologist at Yale, and his research shows that some types of empathy can lead to some seriously negative outcomes.
So let's break this down. This bad empathy can make us favor people in our little in-group. People who look like us or think like us. It's why we might feel this huge surge to protect our own kid, even if they're the one in the wrong, while we totally miss the pain they caused someone else. It basically narrows our moral vision. This is such a great way to picture the problem. Too often, we're teaching our kids to use their empathy like a spotlight, shining it really bright on just one person, usually someone they already know and like. What we need to be teaching is empathy that works like sunlight, spreading it out, broadly and fairly to everyone, even people outside our immediate circle.
So, how do we do that? How do we spread that sunlight? Well, the key is realizing that empathy isn't just one thing. There are two totally different types, and most of us have been focusing on the wrong one.
Okay, check this out. On one side, you've got emotional empathy. I love this nickname, the sponge. This is when your kid feels sad because their friend is sad. They literally soak up the emotion. But on the other side, you've got cognitive empathy, the helper. This is when your child can understand that their friend is sad, and then, this is the critical part, figure out what to do about it without getting totally swamped by the feeling themselves. And get this isn't just some nice idea. It's literally biological. Brain scans show that feeling someone else's pain lights up your emotional centers. But understanding their pain and trying to figure out how to help, that activates your prefrontal cortex, your thinking, problem-solving brain. Two different systems. So what does this actually mean for your kid? Well, a child who's stuck in that emotional empathy, the sponge, can get so overwhelmed by another person's sadness that they just shut down. They turn away because it's just too much. But a child with cognitive empathy, they can see the problem, stay calm, and actually do something helpful. They become effective, not just emotional. So the big question is, how do we actually build this helper mindset? The great news is that it's a skill. And just like any other skill, you can totally teach it. So let's get into the practical stuff. All right, here's our roadmap. 5 real actionable strategies. You want to model sensitive parenting, talk about feelings all the time, allow all emotions, even the messy ones, explain the why behind things, and start that helper training early. Let's dig into a couple of the most powerful ones. Okay, this first one is huge. When our kids are having a meltdown, our instinct is often just to shut it down. You're fine, stop crying. But what that really teaches them is to dismiss feelings, not just their own, but other people's too. Instead, when you say, I can see you're really upset, you're validating their feeling and modeling that first crucial step of cognitive empathy, just understanding. Next up, you want to basically become a feelings detective with your kid. Turn everyday life into a little empathy classroom. Asking questions like these gets their thinking brain working, connecting actions to emotions and getting them to think from someone else's point of view. It's like a workout for their cognitive empathy muscles. And let's jump to number 4, explaining the why. We've all said it, share because I said so.
but it's a total dead end. It just teaches obedience, not compassion. But when you explain the impact an action has, when you share, it helps Tommy feel included. You are directly teaching them to think about how their behavior affects other people. That is the absolute core of cognitive empathy.
Okay, I know. That was a ton of information. So to make this super easy and not at all overwhelming, let's just boil it all down into a simple action plan you can start using, well, literally today.
Here it is, 3 small things. First, tonight at the dinner table, just ask them about someone else's day. Get them thinking. Second, this week, become like a kindness narrator for them, pointing out the good things they do and how it affects others. And third, the next time there's a fight with a friend, before you jump in to fix it, just pause and ask that powerful question, what do you think they were feeling right then?
So here's the bottom line. When you shift your focus away from just teaching your kid to feel what others feel, and instead teach them to understand what others feel, you're not just creating a kinder kid. You're giving them a social superpower. It's a skill that will help them build stronger friendships, navigate arguments, and become the kind of person who really brings people together.
This isn't about some massive, stressful parenting overhaul. Not at all. It's just about small, intentional shifts in how we talk. It all starts with a single question, a single conversation. So, what conversation will you start tonight to build a more compassionate world, one helper at a time?